Okay, hey y'all. I'm here with another story time. I know y'all probably tired. Y'all right, y'all know y'all tired of me being on here talking about myself and stuff, but um this story time is not actually just about me, it's about a lot of different people. So um let's chat. Okay, so I am part of the generation whose life got uprooted by COVID. Okay. So I grew up, you know what I'm saying, was doing my thing, grew up, was lucky enough to get admitted into college, not just any college, an Ivy League college. And so, yeah, I got admitted into an Ivy League college despite my circumstances, despite, the things in my life. But yeah, so I was living my life. I genuinely felt like one of the luckier girls. And yeah, but then everything switched up on me when COVID happened. Like, and all the ways that feeling lucky, for every way that I was feeling lucky, it all got uprooted for me with one pandemic. And I know it's an entire pandemic. So it's like, yeah, of course, everything is gonna get uprooted. But yeah, so because of the pandemic, I was going to school in New York City. New York City was one of the major um spread zones or whatever. So like, not only were people getting being asked to leave the city if they could, like people were getting like kicked out of college. Like my college was like, you have to show paperwork, like a legal reason for you to stay on campus. Otherwise, we're gonna please ask you to um pack your stuff up and go back home and finish the rest of your semester online. And so we had to finish the rest of our semester online. And so I was really upset because I had plans. I was planning to be one of those girls who made it out of her circumstances and never looked back. I was planning to graduate, have a job, move to a different state and start a new life, but I couldn't because like I hadn't secured the job yet, and it was COVID. So even if I had secured the job, like a lot of people's jobs, like it was going to be transferred to being online. So there would be no reason for like um, allocating for like no money allocations for relocations. So regardless, I had to live at home for after college, which was literally my biggest nightmare. It was my worst fear. Like I really, really wanted to be one of those girls who left her circumstances for good, for the better. Okay? Or for the better for good. Like I didn't want to end up going back. But like I said, COVID forced me to go back. But I like I like to believe that one of the reasons why I was one of the lucky chosen ones to make it out of my circumstances was because I'm not a fighter, I'm a challenger. I like to challenge the things that people tell me. I'm inquisitive, right? So even though it was COVID, like I still was talking with my friends about moving. We were all talking about our real estate situations, and it was to the point that even though it was during COVID, this was after they started implementing like the safety practices. I went to go visit my friend in her apartment because I was trying to find a roommate. I was trying to see if I could be her roommate, but her and I realized our friendship wasn't the case where we could be roommates, right? And then I started talking to my sister about possibly moving out the house together. That wouldn't be completely making it out of my circumstances, but it would still be a difference. So, um, yeah. But obviously my sister was like, why would we move out together when we already live in the same house? And I get what she was saying. Like at that point I was literally kind of just being desperate because I really, really wanted to be one of those girls who would make it out of her circumstances and never have to look back. Okay. So I got depressed. COVID sent me into a depression. I was really depressed. It was a really low time in my life. But obviously, I'm one of those people, I like to challenge things. So even when I'm depressed, I like to challenge depression, right? So rather than just sit in the house and mope all day, I would go outside for long walks to try to work through my thoughts. I was like, no, there's no way life is going to leave me like this. No way life is going to leave me depressed. No way, like all my dreams can be like torn away from me. I was like really mad. So I spent a lot of my time just like on the internet, watching TV and doing all those things, but just like crying and like pondering life. And like also still talking to my friends. Like my friends, we were like hashing it out. So that was also really emotional. Like people felt now was the time, like they were like, oh, it's COVID. I don't have to like be fake anymore. Like the people who I don't see the value of having them in my life outside of a potential professional partnership. I'm no longer going to speak to them. Everything that I used to hold my tongue, I'm not going to hold my tongue anymore because COVID just made everybody realize that this life you only get one chance. So it was like a really emotional time. I lost a lot of friends. I actually lost most of my friends. I guess most of my friends, I knew I was trying to make it out of my circumstances, but most of the people who I used to call friends were like, well, you're not helping my career. You're not helping my trajectory. So I don't see the purpose in speaking with you anymore. And so I lost a lot of friends, almost all of my friends, and that's when I realized like school friends are fake friends. So yeah, and that's a lot of the reason why I took to the internet, and I really that's when I really decided. Because fun fact, I don't know if people know this about me, I tried to run away as a little girl. I didn't make it further than the park in my neighborhood. I stayed there for like hours and then I went back home. So, but then after this COVID happened, that's what I'm saying. COVID hit me really hard to the point where I was reverting back to my childhood self. For those of you who don't understand that, then I get it. But like to me, that's like something that means it hits really hard. So at this point, I was like, I want to move to LA. Like, they say the people in LA are fake. No, college people are fake. So I can handle LA. Like, I really, really wanted to move to LA. And so, yeah, I was like spending a lot of time on my internet, like looking at all of my different options and like, I was like seriously trying to come up with a plan to how I could be one of those like, and I was aware at the time, like, LA is like tired of the transplants, but I was like hoping I could be like the very last one. Like, it's a pandemic. Like, I could be one of those last like LA girls, and I just take all my things and move to LA in the middle of the pandemic. It would have been so perfect because it's just like everything in LA is slowed down during the pandemic. So it's like I would have time to get my footing, and all I had to do was get there. So that's when I really started taking to the internet because I obviously this is probably partially like my like big idea after like being on the internet so long and watching all these like Hollywood people and LA based people do things during the pandemic. But still, I was like watching that and I became obsessed. I became obsessed because I was really determined to figure out a way in which I could leave and move to LA. And so I stumbled across this one page that made me believe just for a second that I might have a chance at making it to LA. Like I might have a plan, like to go into LA. Like I was like, that's when I decided I wanted to start dancing. I wanted to start taking dancing seriously. Like I wanted to move to LA, and I was like, I don't care if I have to dance or what I have to do. I want to move to LA. So that's when I started taking my dancing and like my like non-academics a lot more seriously because I wanted to move to LA. So I stumbled across this one page, and I don't think he was from LA, but he was from California, and he was a dancer. So he was familiar with LA. And so I was like kind of like stalking his page, trying to get like the deets on LA and LA stuff. And then so he started going live around this time. And I was like, here I was thinking like he was going live because it's COVID and there was nothing else to do. And it's like I actually stumbled across this page from me wanting to build my dancing, like, rebuild my dancing skills So like at this point, I had already decided I wanted to pursue dancing. I had already decided I wanted to move to LA. So it's not like he inspired me to move. I was already set on that at this point. And so yeah, he started going live a lot. And so I started watching his lives because I was like, "Ooh, perfect! I can get the inside scoop on California." And I don't like, what I'm saying, so I won't go there and like you don't make like the typical transplant mistakes that makes people hate, LA transplants. And so yeah, he would be going live quite frequently, and like he was like a very like he's a dancer, right? So obviously he looks good and he's like personable. So it was also helping with my depression in that sense too, because he was like funny. I was like laughing at his live. Sometimes I would interact, comment, and like, I guess you could say I got a little carried away because I was supposed to be like sneak investigator. So then that's when I realized I was like, oh, like that's outside of the norm for me. Like normally I'm very shy. Normally I'm very particular and I'm very picky. Like I don't just speak to anyone. So I was like really surprised that this random person's live I saw like completely by chance I stumbled upon their Instagram, and like their lives were bringing me out of my comfort zone. Like I was responding to them. So I was like, oh, so then I decided to take like a closer look at the page. So instead of just focused on myself, instead of just like focused on how he can help me move to LA, because again, I was still a little bit butthurt for my college friends like being fake. So I was like, you know what? I can be fake too. So I was just like, I was literally just scrolling through his page. I wasn't really paying attention to him. I was paying attention to what could help me get to LA. But then after I started watching his lives, I started paying more attention to him. And so, yeah, then it came to the point where I started paying more attention to him, and I started noticing like after his lives and after my like comments, his posts would be like oddly similar to my comments. And it's like the reason why at first I didn't think anything of it is because one of the reasons why I was really like appreciative about his page was that we had come from a similar background, so I felt like I could understand him. So I thought it was just by chance that his posts seemingly related to my responses. Like, what I'm saying? I thought it was like, one of those things. It's like I didn't notice I was doing like a stereotypical thing, and he was probably also doing a stereotypical thing that he didn't notice. So I didn't really think anything of it. But then it started happening over and over again. And obviously it's still a pandemic. Still, you can't really go many places. And so I'm like, yeah, and this is after I took my one trip to go visit my friend who was, try to be roommates with my friend in New York. So I was like still, and like I had to, cause this is back when you had to quarantine after you traveled anywhere. So like if you were to go out, you still have to quarantine for a lot of places out there. For a lot of time afterwards, you couldn't go places back to back. So like I said, it was still COVID. So I was stuck in the house. So that's when I started like investigating and like noticing that like a lot of his posts seemed to be related to the things that I was saying. And then a lot of his posts seemed to be related to the things that I was trying to say, like things that I hadn't even mentioned to him. So I started to get the feeling like he knew me before we even got a chance to speak, for real. Like he would respond to my comments on the live. And so I was like, oh, like I probably just set him on a trajectory. And like, what I'm saying? We're both from the same background. So obviously his posts are going to look like that. But then I started investigating, and it just like everything about his page was so familiar. So I started looking. Then come to find out, he posts like a photo of him from like years ago. And I realized years ago, he wasn't in California. He was in my area. And so for a hot second, I got so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, inspiration, someone else. I know he's not like, I know he's a dude, but someone else who moved from my area to California, like, oh my gosh, that's like, what I'm saying? That's perfect. Like, I'm going to keep, looking at this page, keep trying to find my inspiration. Then I take a sec, and then I start reading the caption, and he starts talking about how this was his like one time, his dance inspired trip to my area, to the East Coast, and he said he was only there for a certain amount of time. These were the people that he was around for the time, and it was like kind of, he was like kind of being shady to the people, like kind of reminded me of like my fake college friends, like kind of like, you know how he was like, yeah, I went there to work. These people wanted to do anything but work. You know, they kept giving me the runaround, but still I prevailed. Still we prevailed. And he was like talking about how he felt like he carried the team and like all those things. So mind you, I'm looking at this, I'm reading this, and then I look at like the faces of the people in the post, and I'm like, oh, it's something about this seems familiar. And I realize it's like the popular music in my area at the time. So I don't know if you know, like go-go is like DMV music. Like if you hear go-go, just know it comes from the DMV. So yeah. And so I'm like, I grew up going to go-go's and all those things. Like I used to go to the gospel go-go's. His post didn't have anything to do with gospel or anything. So like at first I was like, no, like there's no way I could possibly really know what he's talking about, because I only know like the gospel go-go's where it's like the pastor and the church band who's playing the go-go, who's playing go-go music. But the gospel go-go's would turn into an after party. So it was like, I was like, so I kept looking. I was like, you know what? Maybe it's like I missed something. Maybe it was like the after party or someone I may have met at the after party or something like that. Mind you, like I said, like at this point in time, I'm going through like a huge breakup too, because COVID had split me and my man, the guy who I was like dating at the time, apart. And like, yeah. Anyway, I just thought this is the time to mention that. So yeah. So then I started looking closer, and I would see one person who looks kind of familiar and is hosting a class. And I'm like, you know what? Perfect. Like, and I can't even tell you why I thought it was perfect. Because I was like, oh, because I was still trying to like, you know, level up on my dance skills. And I was like, oh, I grew up going to the gospel go-go's. Finally, you know, trying to reinforce my foundations. And this guy, his class was about go-go foundations. So I was like, oh, like, oh my God, like, look at God. Like, and to this today, like, this guy's page, I was like, this guy's page, it seemed like it was like literally personally written from the heavens to me, because it got me to a lot of places. Like, you know what I'm saying? I learned choreo. I learned a lot of technique from the choreo that I learned from this guy. I started talking. You know what I'm saying? His posts, you know, they were relatable. Like, as much as I was like, I didn't think they were a direct response to me, they were still eye opening. Like, I still felt the conversation. Like, his lives were like keeping me company during the lonely pandemic. Like, this page, like, already, like, I have been following this person for probably like less than 3 months at this point, and this page had done like more than my college friends had done for me in the like 3.5 years we were in school together, because like I said, they were all fake. And so yeah, I decided, I was like, I know it's the pandemic and I know it's COVID. I was like, I'm still gonna take this foundations class, because I was like, I had been quarantined for enough. I had went on my like one trip a month, or you know what I'm saying? So it was the next month, it was time for my next trip or whatever. So I started going to the classes, even though it was the pandemic. And it was like the only way, to me, it like verified the validity of this guy's page, because he was like connected with like an official LA verified dancer. So I was like, so this guy has to be legit. So I started going to this guy's classes. Okay. And I'm focused on LA at this point, like in this head, in my mind. And I never told anybody this, because I understood at that point. I was like, moving to LA is one of those things that you don't announce, because people are going to try to stop you. People are going to try to talk you out of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I realized and I remember hearing that on that guy's page. That's what the guy was talking about. Like, the guy was literally, he happened to be given like a talk about like dancers' mistakes in moving to LA. Okay. Mind you, I posted some dance videos. So at this point, I was like, if he did see my page, he's probably talking about me, because it was probably obvious to him that I was a dancer trying to move to LA, because I was posting dance videos and I was on watching his lives. So that's when I started to realize like maybe the subtweets were like actually subtweeting me and it wasn't just a coincidence. And so I was like, even more reason for me to like scope out the scene, you know what I'm saying? Because now people know me, now people know who I am. So then I decided to go to these classes and brush up on my gospel go-go foundations. But like I said, I was still focused on LA. Like I still in my head, I was very much planning to like leave everything and go to LA because at this point I lost all my friends. I lost the pandemic. I lost everything. And I have a really big family, so it's not even like, it's just like being in a house with like this many people, it was just like overwhelming to me. Like I really needed a fresh start and I really needed to focus on myself. And I thought LA was the perfect place for that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I go to this class and in my mind, I'm thinking like I'm trying to move like an LA dancer would move just so I can get into the habit to prepare me to move. But mind you, it's like, so now I'm starting like I'm acting a little bit different than I was acting in college because now I have a new goal. Like in college, my plan, I was gonna try to find, a job or at least an internship and post grad and do all that stuff. But now, pandemic, everything changed, everything uprooted. My new focus was dance LA. So I go to this class, dressed how I think an LA girl would be dressed, behaving how I think an LA person would behave. And yeah, I noticed the instructor, the choreographer, the go-go instructor, he's like kind of mean, kind of shady. Like he talks about like he spends like literally within the first 10 minutes of class, he starts talking about how he hates LA. LA people are fake, like all those kind of things. And in my mind, I was like, for a split second, I got really sad because I was like, I know exactly how he feels. Like, that's exactly what I'm going through right now. But in my mind, I was like, no, don't go into depression mode. Like, focus. And then I started focusing and then I started looking at him and I started listening. And I'm like, wait, he looks and sounds really, really familiar. Like, more familiar than just like go-go is familiar to me, you know? And so, yeah. And then this is like outside of the gospel go-go's that I would go to with like my school friends. My sister and I used to, because my sister like she had like relationships, so she would be when she would like introduce her significant other to the family. Obviously, they would be like well-known people in the DMV community. So like I knew that at least some people in the well-known circle of the DMV community at least have seen my face before. You know what I'm saying? So it was one of those moments where I was like, I don't know if I was like, it was the gospel go-go. It was like through it was like a mutual from my sister, or if it was like, someone I grew up with and I didn't notice them because like we were both grown now. And that's when I realized who it was. I realized it was the man who practically mentored my very first boyfriend. Okay. And then that's how I knew he knew me. And like he knew me as the girl, as so-and-so's girlfriend. And I don't know about y'all, but I feel like that's not the best place, like the best thing to be known by. Because it's like, especially like if it's like a relationship from years ago, you're going to be different. And it's just like, it's hard to get into like all the reasons as to why you're different. So then I start wondering, like, is that the reason why this guy is sounding annoyed? Because I don't recognize him, like, because, like, at this point, I don't think he realized, because like I said, me and my first boyfriend, we were really close. Like, everyone thought it was scary how close we were. And so, to the point where I didn't think it would be believable to him that we didn't talk anymore. Okay? Because mind you, like I said, y'all believe that because like I said, my plan, my goals, I didn't want to return to the DMV area after college. I didn't. That was never the plan. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even when COVID happened, I didn't change my plans to staying local. I wanted to go to LA. My boyfriend, my very first boyfriend, he knew that about me. Honestly, he knew that about me before I knew that about myself. But he's like loyal like that, so he didn't tell anybody. So, and it's like now I'm like trying to like figure out how I'm gonna explain to this man like, my situation, because he's like looking at me like, obviously it's kind of weird. Like, if you stay in a DMV, you will understand as to why, if you have a significant other, as to why you shouldn't be at a go-go, let alone a go-go class one-on-one with a go-go instructor. But like I said, at this point, like I'm focused on moving to LA. Like that was my dream at the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? That was my goal at the time. Like, I was really set on moving to LA. So then class goes by, you know what I'm saying? So I start acting accordingly. I start acting like, like I kind of know this guy, like I kind of remember this guy. So I start opening up, and like in my mind, I was like, this is a big moment for me. Like, again, in my mind, the first thing that comes to my mind is this guy's Instagram page. I'm like, oh my God, thank God. This guy has led me to a moment where I'm opening up in a dance class. Like, you know what I'm saying? Such a beautiful spiritual moment. I'm like, wow, I feel so lucky. Like, and that's when I started realizing, I was like, the old Lola, she would go to the dance class and be stiff as mess. But like, I was like, thank God for that guy's Instagram page. So here I am thinking I just did the dang thing because I'm proud of myself. I'm not, like, mind you, the first dance class I went to in New York, and like I said, LA had always been in the back of my mind. For those of you who are like thinking, I mean, not LA, but I guess kind of LA, but LA dance had always been in the back of my mind. But the first dance class I went to in New York, when I was still in New York before the pandemic, just before the pandemic, actually, a year or so before the pandemic, I quit halfway through and I left because I got overwhelmed and I got embarrassed. So, like, instead of running off to LA, I was focused on trying to find a job so I didn't have to return home. So yeah, it's like this. It's not like this wasn't a completely new thing for me, but like this was a time when I decided to be like really serious about it and really actively pursue it. Like, that's what I was set on when I started going to the dance class in New York. But like I said, like, it was a really awkward experience. Like, the choreo, I felt like I wasn't doing the choreo correctly. Like, I felt uncomfortable. I felt like people were looking at me weird. Felt like people were, you know what I'm saying? The imposter syndrome really got to me. And so I left the class halfway through. I didn't even finish the class. Yeah. So like, mind you, this is a big moment for me. Like, it's the end of class. I'm still in the room. So I'm like, I'm pumped. I'm excited. Then this guy starts getting so mad, and like he starts giving like a lecture. He's like, yeah, you guys need to learn technique. Technique is important. Clearly you guys are inexperienced. Mind you, I was on two high school hip hop. I was on two high school dance team. One, it was the African dance team. One, it was the hip hop team. And I had been to the gospel go-go's. So I was like, in my mind, I was like, foundations, like, what do you mean? I was like, I know I haven't danced in some time. And I have been dancing on Instagram. So he starts talking about that, and I'm like, okay. So I guess maybe this guy's Instagram page isn't the only ticket I need to get into LA. So I was like, no, it inspired me to like work even harder on myself. So mind you, I'm like posting my journey. I'm posting my things. I post about the experience, and I post about how this rude dance instructor is like completely like tearing apart everything that I had worked so hard to during the pandemic, worked so hard to relearn. I post about that too because that was part of my journey. That's what happened. So yeah, and then but I continue going to the class because I'm like, you know what? What do you call it? There's probably a saying for this, but you know what I'm saying? You can't ignore criticism. Like, criticism makes you better. You know what I'm saying? Like, pressure makes the diamond, as they say. So, and I was really trying to go to LA. So I was like, whatever. This guy probably knows better than me. He's been to LA before. He's danced for LA dancers. Like, maybe I am all wrong. Maybe I need to spend more hours dancing. I was already dancing like 8 hours a day, but because of him, I started dancing like 12 hours a day and then working out for the extra 4 hours when I wasn't asleep. Like, we literally, I don't think anybody realizes like the things that he said hurt me to the point where I started like falling into like this typical like dancer trope. I started like not eating. I started like overworking out. I started working extra hard. Like, I remember my sister looking at me crazy, like, what happened? Because I started getting like really upset when I wasn't getting the dances right. Like, like, I don't like, to this day I don't think this guy will believe how much he impacted me, because I have a very like chill, calm demeanor, because like I said, I'm shy. I don't like people in my business. But yeah, no, like, that class really changed me, so that's what I started doing. So then that's when I started pulling up to the class, and I think the next class I did a lot better, and he was confused. And like I said, he was experienced, so in his mind he probably kind of realized what I was starting to do. And then he started doing like meditations and stuff in his class and all those kind of things. But then they were kind of getting like a little bit flirty. And so then I was like a little bit confused. Because like out of everyone in the class, I was probably like the closest to his age. Mind you, I have realized that this guy also probably recognized me. So he thought, like, if I was here, you know what I'm saying? So he was being kind of flirty. But honestly, I was like kind of put off from him, because I was like, if this is how he is, like, like, my first boyfriend spoiled me. Like I said, my first boyfriend, he knew me better than I knew myself. So he knew how sensitive and how fragile I was. And that's part of the reason why we broke up, because he was like, he started growing up and he didn't want to like walk on eggshells with me anymore. And so like this guy goes like totally like, obliterating all of those things. But like now he's like, all of a sudden he's on this like meditative, like, you know, wave, which I needed at the time, because I was going through a lot. Like I said, I lost all my friends. I lost my boyfriend. I lost my college housing. I lost my goals. I lost my career path. And I was like focused on dancing to my detriment support. But I really did need meditation. So in my mind, I was thinking like, wow, he's a really good dance instructor. But then like, he was also kind of flirty. And I was like, okay. But mind you, I'm like, I recognize like I'm not in the emotional state to really be like flirting with people. So like, and people who know me, like, normally, like, whether or not I like the person, I'm gonna flirt back just because like I'm goofy like that. But like, and this, like I said, this is a brand new me. I was trying to be very professional. So then, I go to this whole class, this guy is flirting with me. Then he's like, talks about last class. He talks about like hosting some sort of event, for people who have graduated from his class. And he starts talking about, yeah, I teach this class. But then there's also like the go-go dancers that I'm primarily responsible for. So it's mostly for them, but I'm inviting the members of his class because you graduated from this class and you know me. And I'm like, in my mind, I know what that means. Like I said, I used to go to the gospel go-go's, and there was a reason why I went to the go-go's at the church. I have gone to a couple of like house party go-go's previously, and those will always end up in a fight. Like, I remember one of the last ones I went to, my cousin and I, we were like, we had to like almost run to our car because people were starting fighting, and like the police was about to show up. So I was like contemplating not going. I think I spoke with my sister about it or someone about it. And I was like, and then I was following the other guy, the go-go instructor, on Instagram. And I was like watching his page. And I don't know what happened. Something about it made me want to go. And so I did. I went. And honestly, I feel like I never should have went. You know what I'm saying? Because I felt, as soon as I got there, I felt out of place. Like, I was like, it was like clear to me that the gospel go-go was my arena, not the like, the like, the like actual like regular like party go-go. Like, no, at that point I really realized like the gospel go-go was my scene and not the go-go's. But, I'd driven all the way out there. So I didn't want to just like walk in and leave. And for people who know me from college, that's actually a big step for me, because in college, I'm the type of person if I walked into a function and it wasn't what I wanted it to be, I would just up and leave. But I had driven like 40 minutes. And so I didn't want to just up and leave. And plus I walked in and like almost everybody who was there saw me. So yeah, yeah, so I stood there. I wasn't talking to anybody. And that's when I met the guy who set me up and robbed me. And so my LA future had come crashing down quite quickly. Like so many things. I mean, there's so much more to that story. If I get enough interactions on this post, if I do post it, I might tell that story. But other than that, yeah. And this is not the go-go instructor. This is an old friend of the go-go instructor who was there on behalf of the go-go dancers. And he started talking to me because he was like, oh, how come I don't know you? And that's how he approached me. He was like, how come I don't know you? And then, like, every time the go-go instructor would try to flirt with me, he would interrupt. And that's what started happening. And then, fast forward, like, there's a lot to the story, but, like, he ended up robbing me. Allegedly. Allegedly.